Another episode of the Fox Experience. Appreciate everybody joining me. On today's episode, I'm going to talk about new updated COVID numbers and explain why this shutdown and whole COVID hysteria has turned out to be one of the biggest debacles in American history. I'm going to go over some details about Jacob Blake's situation. It's important that I share these details, and I'm also going to explain to you why I'm sharing the details and how they matter and why they relate to the case. Also, I need to make a correction on the Jacob Blake situation from last episode, so stay tuned for that. Media gaslighting is literally at an all-time high, and I didn't think that that was possible. They are really putting themselves out there, and I think it's going to backfire. I'm going to tell you about a few things that Joe Biden's had going on in the last few days, and some of them are hilarious, some of them are downright scary, and just going to talk about everything that's going on right now. Mass chaos, absolute mayhem, what else is new? Welcome to 2020. Enjoy the episode. So I'm going to jump right into it, and we're going to start with COVID. Now, I'm going to start with COVID because this past weekend, the CDC made quite the update that changes the whole scope of the COVID situation. Now, just about 2 months ago, on 4th of July weekend, I did my selective mask mandate episode where I was basically blowing off some steam that people were allowed to riot and loot and do all this stuff and protest in the streets and, whatever it may be. But I couldn't go into the local grocery store to, get a soda without putting on a mask for, public safety, quote unquote. So this past weekend, the CDC updated their COVID numbers, not so much their death count, but they made this revelation. Now, this is very interesting. And again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because COVID's over. It's over. And if these numbers don't prove it, then I don't know what to tell you anymore. This was this past weekend, and they released some data. At the time, of the 153,000 plus COVID deaths, only 9,210 of them could be attributed solely to COVID. Again, of the 153,000 plus COVID deaths, only 9,200 of them can be attributed solely to COVID. So that means that 94% of the people who succumbed to coronavirus / COVID-19, whatever you want to call it, of the 153,000 plus people that passed away from it, only 9,200 of them died solely of COVID. Now, of the other 94% of deaths, the average person that succumbed to coronavirus had 2.6 other conditions, causes, or comorbidities. Of the 153,000 people who died of COVID, 94% of them had an average of 2.6 other conditions or causes of death. Open the entire country back up. Open it all back up. No more mask mandates. No more of this nonsense. Let's all be adults. Let's get back to our lives because enough is enough. We've got enough going on in this world where we have to worry about this virus that keeps popping up and disappearing and popping up and disappearing and popping up and disappearing. Listen, first it was case numbers. Then it was death numbers. Then it went back to case numbers. Now we're at a point where all of the deaths, that 94% of them had an average of 2.6 other causes of death. One of them I know personally, who had 2 other causes of death. COVID was listed 3rd on their death certificate. COVID is over. Not saying it wasn't overhyped. Not saying it wasn't real. We shut down the country for almost 7 months now. 7 months for this. For 9,200 deaths. All 153,000 people who succumbed to this virus, awful. All of them. But we treated this thing like it was the Black Plague because of just panic and hysteria and panic and hysteria and panic and hysteria. Enough. These numbers, come on. Get out of here. Get out of here. You can't justify. Nope. COVID's over. Now, on that podcast that I did 2 months ago, one of the biggest things was that we were being gaslit, we were being BS by the media, by our politicians, and we are right back there. I'm going to jump into the Jacob Blake situation quick. I want to go over some details that are important, and I'm going to explain to you why they are important. First, need to make a correction. A listener on my past episode about Jacob Blake, in the episode, I said that Jacob Blake had passed away, had died of his gunshot injuries. He is paralyzed from the waist down as of right now. Not sure if that's a permanent thing, but that correction, Jacob Blake did not die in that shooting. He was shot in the back and is, according to his family, paralyzed from the waist down. The details that I'm going to be sharing with you are important because context matters in everything. Now, with me sharing these details, I'm not condoning every single action that took place in the Jacob Blake incident, but context matters, and context matters big time here. So on May 3rd of this year, a woman filed a criminal complaint. The criminal complaint states that Blake unlawfully entered her home in the early hours of the morning on May 3rd. This is from theblaze.com. The woman said she awoke from her sleep to find Blake standing in her room, looming over her. Blake, the 29-year-old father of the woman's 3 children, reportedly demanded she return his possessions. "I want my SHIT," Blake reportedly told the woman. It then says, as the woman lay there on her back, the defendant suddenly and without warning reached his hand between her legs, penetrated her with his finger, pulled it out, sniffed it, and said, "Smells like you've been with other men," the at times graphic complaint reads. Following the assault, Blake reportedly stole her vehicle and left the premises. The woman alleges over the 8-year period that the two spent together, Blake reportedly sexually assaulted her at least twice per year during drunken episodes. And now here's where the important details start right now. Here's where the details that lead up to the incident just recently, here's where it matters. From that incident, authorities charged Blake in July with felony third-degree sexual assault, misdemeanor trespassing, and disorderly conduct connected to domestic abuse. From the article, fast forward to August, Blake's ex-girlfriend, purportedly the same one from the criminal complaint, reportedly phoned police and reported the latest domestic incident, which purportedly took place because he showed up at her home and had taken her keys. So the woman has claimed now that Jacob Blake has now showed up at her house after previously sexually assaulting her, which he has an outstanding warrant on at the moment, where he's facing 8.5 years in prison. Kenosha Police Union revealed key details in Jacob Blake's shooting to correct misleading narrative. Also from the Blaze. This is from the Police Union of Kenosha, up in Wisconsin. From the article, police dispatched to the scene were aware of Mr. Blake's open warrant for felony sexual assault, the union said, adding that Blake was not intervening in a domestic dispute like many reports claim. Investigators with the Wisconsin Department of Justice said Blake had a knife in his possession, which they claimed was recovered in the floorboard of his vehicle, the SUV seen in the viral video. Now, according to the union, Blake was armed with a knife and the vehicle was not his. Quote, "The silver SUV seen in the widely circulated video was not Mr. Blake's vehicle. Mr. Blake was not unarmed. He was armed with a knife. The officers did not see the knife initially. The officers first saw him holding the knife while they were on the passenger side of the vehicle. The main video circulating on the internet shows Mr. Blake with the knife in his left hand when he rounds the front of the car. The officers issued repeated commands for Mr. Blake to drop the knife. He did not comply." The article goes on. The union went on to explain that officers attempted to control the situation by speaking to Blake and issuing verbal commands, but Blake was allegedly uncooperative and non-compliant. The union claimed Blake forcefully fought with the officers, including putting one of the officers in a headlock. Multiple attempts to incapacitate Blake through the use of a taser were unsuccessful. Based on the inability to gain compliance and control after using verbal, physical, and less lethal means, the officers drew their firearms, the union explained. Quote, "Mr. Blake continued to ignore the officers' commands, even with the threat of lethal force now present." I also want to point out that when Jacob Blake was in the hospital after being shot, he admitted to investigators that he had a knife. That's not from anyone else. That's from Jacob Blake himself. He admitted to investigators that he had a knife. The reason I'm sharing this information is because this. I'm going to break it down. We hear unarmed black men killed by police. Obviously, everyone jumps to conclusions because that's the world we're living in right now. But you have to look at the context of everything. And I'm not talking about were the police wrong, was Jacob. No, you have to look at the entire situation. What led up to the incident? Okay, well, what led up to the incident? This is a previous relationship between the two people, the alleged victim and Jacob Blake. He has allegedly sexually assaulted her several times. And he's wanted on a felony sexual assault warrant right now. So, police are responding to a call now. This is the day of the incident. Police are responding to a call from a woman that says a man is on her premises who shouldn't be there. Cops show up, ask Mr. Blake. They just broke it down, what they were trying to do, verbal commands, this and that. There's a video that is not being circulated so much on the internet that you can find that has a whole lot more of the incident between Jacob Blake and the police. The video is from the right-hand side of the car. If you're looking at the car, it's on the left. Jacob Blake is wrestling with police officers. He tried putting one of them in a headlock. He got out of the tussle with officers. He then got tased twice by police. He did not stop. He also had a knife in his hand, which you can see in the first viral video. So right now, you have to say that police are responding to a call where they know someone is there who has an outstanding warrant for felony sexual assault against this person. Then we know that in the video, the second video that's not being widely circulated, he's wrestling with police officers, fights them off, is not stopped by two separate tasers, has a knife in his hand, walks away from police officers while they have their guns drawn, opens up his car door, and reaches in. The only thing that you should expect in that situation is bad things to happen. I don't care who you are, what color, what creed, what race, nope, gender. You do that. You wrestle with police officers with an outstanding felony warrant. You fight off their tasers. You walk away from them when they have their guns out. You open your car door and you reach in. You had a knife and you admitted you had a knife. Now, does that change at all the situation in anybody's mind? Because in my mind, it's not saying that the entire situation is A-okay, wash our hands of it, water under the bridge. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is context matters here. We have to know. By the way, Jacob Blake, who is an alleged repeated sexual assaulter, has a GoFundMe account that people set up, and it has over $1 million. I actually saw that it possibly had $2 million, but I know a GoFundMe for Jacob Blake was set up, and over $1 million is in that GoFundMe. Now, when you hear unarmed black man shot in front of his kids, that's awful. When you look at the story and you say he had a outstanding felony warrant right now against the victim that he was at the house of, the alleged victim at the house of. He wrestled with police. He fought off tasers. He walked away from them. He had a knife. He wasn't unarmed. And the entire narrative is complete BS. Jacob Blake right now is paralyzed from the waist down. And the fact that he just had this incident happen after he was already wanted for felony sexual assault, I think he's going to need to enjoy that GoFundMe possibly from a prison cell. I'm not sure, but let's just see how this works out. But there is the information that you may not be hearing, and if you have, it may be frustrating to you that when you turn on the TV, open up social media, anything that unarmed black man killed. First thing this morning, I'm up at 3 a.m. I open up Twitter because I got to get on there for work. A group of demonstrators gathered at the scene after a black man was shot and killed by police officers on Monday in South Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Sheriff's Department said officers shot the man after he produced a handgun. Can we stop with this? Anybody who gets shot is just an unarmed person and we need to go protest and riot? Enough. Stop. He had a handgun. Who knows? I don't know enough about the story, but he had a handgun. I read that the first paragraph of the story. Produced the handgun. Okay, well, that's okay. Now let's wait for more facts. But in the first sentence of the thing, after it says, police shoot and kill black man, it's, he produced the gun. Well, why wasn't that in the headline? We all know why it's not in the headline, because it doesn't fit the narrative. Moving on to another hysterical, media-filled narrative that is almost too untrue not to believe unless it was actually happening. And now it's actually happening. Antifa, rioters, looters, Black Lives Matter has been out in the streets. There's been a whole lot of uppity white kids out there, telling us no justice, no peace and all that. Check our privilege and all that, okay? So there's been violent protests. There's been stuff burned down. There's been cities reduced to rubble. In Seattle, there was Chop Chaz. That was literally another colony that just sprouted up in the middle of a major American city. Antifa's been real. Antifa's been here for years. Andy No has been following and trying to let us know about it for years. Those of us who listened followed Antifa and saw what they were doing, and we're not surprised by this. We knew that there was going to be an uprising, and here it is. They're burning and looting businesses. They're murdering people based solely on their political beliefs. They just murdered a Trump supporter the other day in Portland, Oregon. Murdered him for being a Trump supporter. Assaulting and killing police officers. Defunding and abolishing police is what they want to do. They're berating people at restaurants, up in people's faces at restaurants. They're taking away your right to defend yourself. If you defend yourself like the McCloskeys, the husband and wife in St. Louis, who defended their home after protesters / rioters / trespassers broke into a private gated community, and they just came out on their front lawn with guns to defend their property. The right to bear arms, the Second Amendment. They're trying to take that away. They want mob rule. They want this. How do you know they want this? How do you know that they're not taking this seriously? Well, Jerry Nadler, high-ranking Democrat, he was asked about Antifa about a month ago. Now, mind you, we've been seeing all of these protests and riots and looting and ruining of cities. We've been watching all of this for months. We've been watching it. And Jerry Nadler was asked about Antifa, and he said it was a myth that was being spread only around Washington, D.C. A myth. Minneapolis, Minnesota, where George Floyd was killed, reduced to rubble. They had to request money from FEMA after they denied federal aid in the first place. Chop Chaz just sprouts up in the middle of Seattle. All good. It's a myth. Portland literally has been on fire for 3 months. There's been riots in Portland for over 90 days straight under Mayor Ted, horrible mayor. I thought de Blasio was horrible. This guy's really giving him a run for his money. And then you got Lori Lightfoot in Chicago, who's really trying to throw her hat in the ring. Oh, and then you got Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan, who said she's happy Big Ten and high school football in Michigan was canceled. Yeah, that's a good election strategy. I'm ready for this one. So we've been hearing about all these people that are burning and looting and ruining cities, that they are, quote unquote, mostly peaceful protests. As in, 98% of things get ruined and 2 people are holding picket signs, so they go mostly peaceful. Case in point, a few months ago, Ali Veshy off MSNBC, one of their hosts, literally was standing in front of a gigantic building engulfed in flames. And he said, it's mostly peaceful out here, in front of a building engulfed in flames. Okay? Everyone made fun of that, because that was literally the GIF, or GIF, however you like it. Literally the dog sitting there saying, this is fine. It was literally him standing in front of a fully engulfed warehouse or something, saying, mostly peaceful. We see the fire behind you. We see the building on fire. So CNN just had to one-up them, and, I mean, this was glorious. The other day, instead of just saying peaceful protest, and on the Chiron on CNN said, fiery but mostly peaceful protests. You can't make this stuff up anymore. Hold on. Them ruining downtown Manhattan. Them ruining all of these major cities. Ruining. Just tearing apart. Rubble. You got to see Kenosha, Wisconsin. It looks like it's so bad Trump had to go there. It looks like a battle zone. Mostly peaceful. And now imagine. We have all these things happening. The media and the left, you can't separate the two. I don't care what's that. You can't separate the narrative and the talking points and the same things that are said by the politicians as the people on the networks. It's just look and watch and see with your own eyes. Okay? They've been telling us for how long that these were all peaceful protests, that there was nothing going on. Riots, why is Trump stoking fear? No, Trump is literally telling us what's going on. Cities are being burnt to the ground. Minneapolis, burnt. Downtown New York City, burnt. Stores boarded up nonstop all the way downtown Manhattan. I'm from New York. I've been in the city more times than I could possibly count. I cannot imagine walking down one block in New York City and seeing buildings boarded up, windows boarded up. And guess what? That's what they did for these mostly peaceful protests. Okay, so you ready for this? Ready for this narrative to flip literally on a dime? You got Minneapolis that was overrun after the George Floyd killing. There were protests. They turned into anarchy. Trump offered federal assistance. They turned him down. In Seattle, Jenny Durkin, Summer of Love, Jenny Durkin, Chop Chaz supporter, denied federal support from Trump. And then when Trump sent in federal support, Chop Chaz gone, Seattle, all good. Portland, Mayor Ted Wheeler, just the other day, Donald Trump offered the mayor of Portland 750 federal National Guard troops to go in and help end the violence. It was getting out of control. That same night, might have been a few days later, but right after Trump offers the help, he denies the help. A Trump supporter was literally killed in the middle of the street on video in Portland, literally because he was a Trump supporter. There's video, it's disturbing. People literally walking around the streets of Portland, and you hear them yell, we've got one, either we've got a Trump supporter or we've got a Trumper. Right here, and guess what you hear? Bang, bang. Dude walks right up, kills the man cold blood. That's execution. That's an execution right there. Okay? So Trump offers help in Minneapolis, gets denied. Done. Offers help in Seattle, gets denied, goes in, finally cleans it up. Portland offers 750 National Guard troops. Mayor turns him down. Now, Trump supporter gets killed on the streets of Portland by a person who is a self-avowed 100% Antifa. And the narrative the next day is white nationalists and radical far-right-wing groups are you kidding me? Like, no, really. Are you kidding me? Like, I'm dead serious. Are they literally kidding anymore? Like, this isn't even funny anymore. Like, it used to be like, all right, cool, that's their narrative. They're literally telling us that we can't see out of our own eyeballs. That we can't look at the news. That we can't look at the pictures. That we can't look at the videos of the people on the ground. Andy No, Elijah Schaefer from The Blaze. All these people on the ground. Ami Horowitz. You're telling me that all the video and all the things, we can see all their videos and it just be like, nope, nothing's going on. Okay, so this entire time, for months since the George Floyd killing at the end of May, Trump this entire time, get your cities under control, law and order. I'm ready with the National Guard when you are. Get your cities under control, law and order. The RNC, law and order. We're going to get this country back. We got to stop the loot. We got to stop at the RNC. Get your cities under control, law and order. I'm ready with the National Guard to help. Let's get these things under control. We don't want your help, was their response. We don't want your help. Cities burned down, people killed, police killed. Businesses ravaged, savaged, done, burnt down to the ground. And guess what? People start recognizing. People start, whoa, what's this? Something doesn't seem right. And I think the tipping point the other day was after the RNC, where Trump did it at the White House on the South Lawn. I don't care what your opinion on it is. Who cares? Who cares? After attendees for the RNC left the White House to go walk to hotels and nearby, wherever they were going, they were literally surrounded by mobs of crazy people, accosting them in their face, yelling at them, taking big video. Police are literally surrounding Senator Rand Paul and his wife with a bicycle. There's a police officer literally following next to him, holding up a bicycle as a barrier. Someone comes in, pushes the bicycle right into a senator. No major injuries, but these people are crazy. Okay? So we saw that happen. Other people that attended the RNC were just terrible idea of anyone who said, all right, our attendees can just walk to their hotels when they knew there was a frigging mob outside. So once you see teenagers, because there was a beautiful video of probably looked like a late teen, early 20s white kid walk right up to an old lady in her 70s probably and give her the double middle finger. Yeah, that's really going to resonate with, middle America. Yeah, that's really going to resonate with the suburban moms. So guess what? The polls start dropping. The polls are literally flip-flopping. Not completely, but Trump is gaining ground all over the place. And guess what? They all blame Trump and say this is Trump's America. He's got to stop stoking fear and fanning the flames and all this just literal nonsense. I don't have any words other. So it's Trump supporters out there doing this, right? Antifa, right? They're Trump support. BLM, they're Trump supporters? For real? Really? Yeah. They literally, their only goal, other than the destruction of America, is to make sure Donald Trump is not president. Antifa is not voting for Donald Trump. BLM is not voting for Donald Trump. Don't tell me those are his supporters. We see who their supporters are. They're burning down Democrat cities. Why did Trump supporters kill a Trump supporter the other day in Portland? Why did Trump supporters have a guillotine and a Trump doll outside the White House the night of the RNC? An actual mock guillotine with a doll or stuffed something of Donald Trump in a guillotine. Yeah, that was Trump supporters. Yeah, way to show your support. Trump 2020, right? Yeah, give me a break. Why did Trump supporters attack Rand Paul and his wife? Why'd they do that? Literally on a dime. It shifted from these are peaceful protests, there are no riots, to Donald Trump, keep your nose out of it, we don't want your help, to why is Trump calling all peaceful protesters rioters and looters and criminals, to a Trump supporter getting killed in Portland by Antifa, mobs surrounding Republicans outside the RNC the other night, a guillotine outside the RNC the other night, and then magically the entire media and all of the left, they go, this is Donald Trump's America. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like, they think we are stupid, guys and gals. They think we're stupid and that we have no eyeballs. That we cannot see cities being burned to the ground, Trump screaming that he wants to help, them refusing, and then they come out and have a press conference like Ted Wheeler the next day saying it's Donald Trump, either come in and help or stay out of it. What? And guess how Antifa and all of Portland treated him last night. They were firing fireworks at his apartment building. So after he literally has condoned and given them the green light on all of this for 90 days, and then he blames it on Trump, then he tells Trump to keep out of it. And then guess what? Wasn't good enough for Antifa and BLM or whoever's over there. It's Antifa and BLM that's doing this. All right? The Marxist organization, BLM. Not the saying. The organization, the Marxist organization. Yeah, that one. That is determined to end the nuclear family in America. And like gender identities and stuff. Something about how that, yeah. Go read about Black Lives Matter, the organization. And, if you don't know, then you should probably know who you're supporting. Also on this, Joe Biden's staff supports the riots from Reuters. 13 campaign staffers from Joe Biden's campaign donated to funds to help the rioters get out of jail. Why was he trying to bail out Trump supporters? I'm confused. Kamala Harris tweeted out the Minnesota Freedom Fund. The Minnesota Freedom Fund to help bail out peaceful protesters. And they bailed out a hell of a lot of people. This is an article from The Federalist, and it's titled, Meet the Rioting Criminals Kamala Harris Helped Bail Out of Jail. Scroll down just a little bit. Fox 9 News in Minneapolis did the research for us, and here are a few of the criminals they found Harris did a solid for. Among those bailed out by the Minnesota Freedom Fund is a suspect who shot at police, a woman accused of killing a friend, and a twice convicted sex offender, according to court records reviewed by the Fox 9 investigators. According to attempted murder charges, Jaleel Stalling shot at members of a SWAT team during the riots in May. Police recovered a modified pistol that looks like an AK-47. The Minnesota Freedom Fund paid $75,000 in cash to get Stallings out of jail. What wonderful people we have in Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, the uniters of the country. Give me a break. Kamala Harris, right, the same person who literally the other day on Stephen Colbert was asked, why are we seeing the riots being covered more? Quote from the vice presidential nominee on the Democrat side. Quote, that's right. They're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. And this is a movement, I'm telling you. It goes on. Quote, they're not going to stop, and everyone beware, because they're not going to stop, she added. They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. Everyone should take note of that on both levels, that they're not going to let up, and they should not, and we should not. You like that, America? You guys like the sound of that? Person who's basically running for president, because Joe Biden's not even here anymore. He's just being rolled around places. Yeah. Beware. The riots are not going to stop. But guess what? You elect Joe Biden? They'll stop. Finally, I'm going to wrap this episode up on a little bit of a funnier note, but this is dead serious. So Joe Biden was doing I guess you would call them press conferences, even though he does not answer any questions, does not get asked any questions, neither does Kamala Harris. They literally have immunity from the press. Like, the interviews that they've done, Joe Biden's done an interview with Cardi B, and Kamala Harris has done an interview with Stephen Colbert, okay? So Joe Biden, who cannot complete 2 consecutive sentences without stumbling all over himself because he does not know where he is. That's not mean to point that out. The man is going senile. The man is not there. That's a legitimate concern, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, anything. This guy's senile and can have his finger on the nuclear codes. What if he goes to the bathroom and, just forgets where he is and he thinks it's the remote? I mean, it's funny, but it's, not funny at all. So I want to wrap this up on a funny note. So Joe Biden had a good 19-second clip from a press conference that he just did yesterday or the day before, and I would like to call this little wrap-up segment called, What Do These Words Mean? So Biden, in a prepared statement, this is what Joe Biden had to say about COVID. Quote, COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, it's taken more than 100 years. Look, here's the lives. It's just, you think about it, more lives this year than any other year for the past 100 years. The game is, what do these words mean? What do those words mean? COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, it's taken more than 100 years. Look, here's the lives. It's just, you think about it, more lives this year than any other year for the past 100 years. This is the guy running for president, people. He does not know where he is. I appreciate everybody joining me. Thanks so much for listening. Share the show and your episodes with some friends. Go to anywhere you got where you can rate, review, anything that you can do to help support us. Really appreciate it. I'm JP Fox. This was The Fox Experience. Open your eyes. Don't believe everything they tell you. Believe what your eyeballs are showing you. Have a good one, everyone.